my name's Jacob Ewens and I'm the Recertification Manager at SafeSite here in Crawley. There are several variations of harness, but the majority of manufacturers have implemented a 5-year shelf life and a 5-year working life from the day that the product is opened. Upon opening, you will find an identity card similar to this one that needs to be filled out on the day that the product is first opened and first used. Once the product has been opened, it's vital that you fill out the identity card. The identity card will ask you questions like the product's manufacturer, product code number, product serial number and the date of manufacture. It is essential that you fill out this document and also add the date that the product was first opened. This is essential for the periodic examination of this particular piece of PPE. Once the identity card has been filled out, it's vitally important that you check the PPE prior to its first use. The first thing you need to look for is the identification tag. You need to make sure that the harness is within 5 years of its manufacture date prior to use. Secondly, I'd check all the metal components. The D-ring dorsal attachment is typically what you'd be suspended by if you were to fall off the roof. So that needs to be in good working order and tip-top condition. Any bends, twists or cracks or any deformation is completely unacceptable. If you find this damaged in any way, the harness must not be used. Moving down the harness, I check all the metal components first for any obvious damage. As I mentioned before, any bends, twists or cracks are totally unacceptable. Moving on to the webbing, you'll notice this particular harness has got a black webbing with a white stitching. It's high-vis stitching, so any damage to this stitching would be extremely obvious. Moving on to the webbing itself, you're checking for any foreign bodies. You want the fabric to run freely like so. If there becomes a hard spot and it doesn't bend or twist, there's something on there that shouldn't be and the harness mustn't be worn. Today we've been asked to attend site to carry out some PPE inspections. We've come across a harness that is typical of a failure. Firstly, if you look at the identification tag is damaged and has also been drawn on with permanent marker. This is an instant failure. Moving up to the D-ring, the dorsal attachment, you'll notice that it's bent and twisted. This is also an automatic failure. The backing of the D-ring is also damaged, as you can see here. Moving down the harness, you'll notice that the webbing has been drawn on with permanent marker. Permanent marker can actually damage the integrity of the webbing and must not be used. We recommend a keyring fob or a cable tie may be connected to the dorsal attachment and then clipped off to identify your own personal harness. Moving down the harness, you can see that the webbing here is frayed and extremely badly damaged. This is also an instant failure. Moving down to the leg loops, you'll notice that there's a nick on the edge of the webbing. This black stitching is an identification marker for wear and tear. Any nicks, cuts, tears or abrasions up to that black stitching is acceptable. Anything on it or past it is unacceptable. You'll also notice on the leg loops, this particular leg loop has got 2 plastic retainers. On this leg loop there are none. This is also an instant failure. Now I'm going to show you how to put on a harness correctly. I've carried out the pre-user checks by checking the identification tag and I've checked all the metal components and all the webbing for any obvious damage. What we don't want to see people doing is trying to climb into a harness like so with the leg loops done up. We're trying to prevent you from falling off the roof. We don't want you falling over while you put your harness on. The correct way to put the harness on, open up all the metal components first, the chest strap and both of the leg loops, like so. The best way to put the harness on, if you hold the dorsal attachment facing towards you, this is the rear of the harness. You then take the 2 shoulder straps like so and put the harness on like a jacket. Your main aim at this point is to get the dorsal attachment in between your 2 shoulder blades. And the section at the bottom here is going to act as a seat. You need this underneath your backside. You don't want it halfway up your back or down behind your knees. It's entirely up to you whether you do the chest or the legs first. You place the chest strap into the buckle on the opposite side, one end through, second end follows it. Leg straps come underneath like so, always ensuring that the adjusters are facing away from your body. If the adjusters are facing in towards your body like so, the harness is twisted and it needs to be readjusted. You then place the buckle in like you did with the chest strap, one end through, second end follows it, and then the same on the opposite side. We recommend that you can get your hands between the webbing and your body, but not a clenched fist. So this harness needs a considerable amount of adjustment. To adjust the harness, this particular model has got a spring-loaded section here, so you push the spring up to release the webbing. Then once you've got a loop, you can pull on the loop. Always recommend adjusting the chest first before you go anywhere near the legs. The reason being, once you've adjusted the chest, it actually pulls the legs up nice and tight. So you pull the webbing through like so, then you pull down on the adjuster. Same across your chest, like so. Now that's a much snugger fit. The D-ring is still in between my two shoulder blades and the seat is underneath my backside. You want the harness to fit nice and snugly. Obviously you don't want it cutting off your circulation because you need to be able to work in it, but it needs to feel like you've got the harness on. You'll notice you've got these little black retainers. If you push the first retainer up behind the buckle, it just prevents the harness adjusting itself while you're working, and the second one just takes up some of the slack fabric. The same thing applies to your chest loops, one up behind the buckle, and the second one down to take up some of the slack fabric. If you come across a harness with any of the defects that have been shown today, the best thing to do is dispose of the harness correctly. We would recommend a pair of scissors, cut the harness up into several different pieces so that it can't be used accidentally, and then dispose of it in the bin.